Hey, it's Clay. How are you guys doing? I wanted to do a bit of a tutorial vlog today, just about how to do YouTube, how to post videos guitar related, pretty much to how to do exactly what you are watching right now and what you see consistently on my channel. How to turn all that stuff over there and all this stuff over here into this. Although you actually don't want YouTube to crash. You want it to run and you want it to work perfectly. Here we go. So this, how to do this kind of stuff right here. So basically, from a macro perspective, there's kind of a three-step process. You need to capture video, you need to capture audio, and then you need to put it together into a video file. The first two are going to involve hardware, kind of things external to your computer, and then the third one is mostly going to be done on your computer. So let's talk about capturing video. I've used a whole bunch of different cameras in my history on YouTube. I mean, I've just got a whole bunch of them. I've got a whole drawer full of old ones. For a long time, I was using a flip video that captured 720p. It's actually this guy right over here. I've used one of these for a long time. It got the job done. But I actually just recently got a new camcorder for Christmas. And, it's actually a JVC. It's one of those kind of typical camcorders with it's got the flip outside, and there's a couple things that I just kind of want to say about the camcorder. Number one is you're probably going to want it to be in HD. 720p is HD, 1080p is even better. If you can do that, I think it's really going to serve you well. It just definitely helps make things look more professional. Also, if you can get a tripod of some sort, that is also extremely helpful. I have one that I'm holding the camera on right now. It's just this little 11-inch, $20 camcorder tripod that I bought at a Best Buy, and it definitely gets the job done very, very well. Also, just a very little thing, but you want one that has the little screen that folds out to the side, and you want it so that it can flip over, so that basically, so let's go ahead and turn the camera so it's looking at me. Over here, I actually have the screen that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at it right now. I'm watching myself talk to the camera. That is huge. For a long time, with the flip, when you are capturing a video, it displays what you're capturing here, but you're looking at this, so you have no idea what you're seeing and what the camcorder is actually capturing until after you're actually done. So there's been a number of videos on my channel where the video is either too close or too far away or down in my feed, or it just makes things a little bit more complicated. So if you can get a camcorder that has that flip around screen, it's extremely helpful. I cannot underestimate, it's just a little thing, but it makes a big difference, and I learned it the hard way. So basically, from there it's pretty easy. You just hit record and you go. Capturing the video is pretty simple. Capturing the audio. Now this is going to involve, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but basically you need to turn your guitar signal into something that you can record. If you want to use an amp in a cabinet, you've got to have a microphone. You're going to need, I use this Shure PG57. It's a really cheap SM57 knockoff. This thing probably totally sucks, but I literally have used it for probably half of my videos. Used it a ton, and it got the job done just fine. But an SM57 will definitely do the job. I'm not going to really go in deep about miking, because that in itself, it takes a lifetime to really learn and master. But basically, you're going to need a microphone. From there, you can put a preamp in line. What a preamp does is a microphone preamp will amplify the signal. So the signal that a microphone captures is usually relatively weak. So the preamp just kind of helps give it a little bit of a signal boost to make it a little bit stronger. Now then you are going to need an interface. This is the one I have used for a long time. It is the Native Instruments Guitar Rig Session IO. I paid $200 for it, literally, I think I got this right before I started doing YouTube, so 5 years ago. I've been using this thing almost nonstop ever since. It's been an absolute brick. Something like this is perfect. The Line 6 tone ports are also a solid choice. They're relatively inexpensive. Basically, the interface takes your analog signal, analog in terms of, it's coming from the microphone. It's actually literally analog. and it converts it into a digital signal that a computer can handle. So you're going to need an interface. Like I said, the Line 6 is a good place to start. You can all the way go up to high end. A lot of it depends on how many instruments you need to track. For me, something like this is going to work just fine. It has a XLR input right here for your microphone. So if I'm using a mic, you basically just plug the mic into an XLR cable and plug that cable into here. It also has 2 1/4-inch inputs. So if I'm recording, if I want to use like Amplitude or Guitar Rig, you just would plug your guitar cable right into here and that would work just fine. It also has a headphone monitoring. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's really easy. Really simple and straightforward. But you're going to need an interface, and you can get one for about $100. It's not a huge investment. So another thing to mention here is that many of the current modelers act as an interface. I know the HD500 does. I've used it that way. The Zoom G3 does. XFX, 11 rank, all of them have USB capabilities of acting as an interface themselves. If that's the case, all you need to do is plug them in and then use a driver. This cable that I've got right here in the back of my XFX, this is what you're looking for right here. The other end is going to be USB. It's that gray cord. Very simple. Not a big deal at all. Let me just get that cord back in. Okay, so that's basically what you need in terms of your external stuff. Now we need to kind of look at the computer. So we've got our video, we've got our audio. Personally, I like to capture them separately and then combine them in the video editing process. I know that it's possible to connect a microphone to some camcorders, so then but I'm not going to go into that because I've never done it and I don't really know how to do it, but it's possible. But for me personally, I like to capture them separately just because it gives me more control and flexibility over how it all works out. And I'm fairly computer techy, so I like to do a lot of the work in the computer just because I have more control. So we've got you set up your camera, you hit record. You've got your guitar plugged into your amp. Your amp is mic'd up. It's going into the interface, or the other way around. You're plugged into a modeler, and that is plugged into the computer. Or maybe you're just plugging into the interface and using Guitar Rig. Whatever you're doing, it's all pretty much the same. Oh, and also a very minor thing. If you are using a modeler as an interface, you're going to need drivers. So just do a Google search for Pod HD500 drivers, and you should be able to find them. Okay, so let's get to the computer. Now you're going to need, first of all, it helps if you have a million tabs. Currently, I only have about 10, which is a little bit low for me, so you're going to want about 20 or 30. And if you haven't picked up yet, I'm just kidding. But you're going to need a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. I've actually done a tutorial on Reaper, and I have a number of other tutorials on Audacity. So I'm not going to go real in-depth on how to use them, because there's a lot of information out there. But anyways, okay, so your DAW is actually going to, I'm going to go ahead and use my XFX, even though it's not turned on. Okay, so basically in your DAW, this is where you actually record your guitar's audio. Basically, you want to turn it into something that you can export and load up as an MP3 or a WAV file. Like I said, I'm not going to go too in-depth on how to actually use this, but I use Reaper. It's a solid choice. It's also fairly inexpensive to get a license at $60 for a commercial user. Not a big deal whatsoever. So I'm going to assume, I'm just going to kind of skip over the part here where you would actually capture your audio. If you've got your drivers installed for your modeler, or if you've got your interface, you'll probably need drivers as well. You're going to need to make sure that you select that. A lot of these will have some sort of preferences menu where you can select your devices. So right here, we've got choices for your driver. You've got the Pod HD500, SEO for All, 11 rack, XFX, Creative, that's my actual sound card, Guitar Rig Session, that's my interface, and Zoom G3. So basically you select these based on which one you want to use. Fairly simple and straightforward. Let's pretend like I'm using my XFX. Hit OK, record it. From here you want to export it. Now, using an MP3 or a WAV file is probably going to be most common. I'm not going to go too in depth on this because there's so much out there on this kind of thing that I don't want to really weigh it down too much. But basically, export your recording of your guitar into a file that you can use in your video editing. Now, lastly, the video editing. This is probably the step that is going to be most foreign to most of you, just because it involves using computers, and if you're a guitar player, I just don't know how much you are exposed to this kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You can go really deep. You can keep it really simple. If you're using Windows, you can use a Windows Movie Maker Live. It's an okay choice. It's not amazing, but it will get the job done. I've probably done maybe 100 videos using Windows Movie Maker. It works. I use Sony Vegas. It's a really, really nice video editing program. I really like it. It definitely works very, very well. If you're using a Mac, then you actually have kind of an easy choice, because iMovie is right there for you. And it just makes things really, really simple with iMovie, and it's already free and installed. So you're going to want to load up your video editing software, and from here, basically your objective is to sync your video and your audio file. So I'm going to load in, let's see here. I'm going to try to find something that I can work with here. Let's do... Probably don't have any video. Oh, I do. Okay, so this is actually the Chris Tomlin video. Still is on my hard drive. So this right here, I'm just going to play it. This is the video file that I captured with this camcorder when I was playing that Chris Tomlin's cover. And there's Kelsey. I blocked her out. But basically, if you can hear this, it's the room audio, which is no good. So we need to add the recorded audio. So from here, you need to go and find the location of where you actually did your recording. For me, that was here, Reaper, Finals, Chris Tomlin, Unspeakable Joy. So this is the MP3 file. And if we just solo this, it will sound like this. But as you can see, they're not synced. Now, in order to sync them, this is kind of a fine art, and it will involve you learning how to use your video editing program. But basically, the best way to do it is to play around with the volume sliders. I like to have them both on. So, you can kind of get a feel for when they should be, and you can kind of zoom in and really fine-tune it. It also helps to look at these little lines here. That's the audio, like the beats, the actual measures of the audio. That can help to really sync things together. Okay, well, I'm not going to go too much more in depth on this. Basically, you just want to sync them up so that they are on the same time. And then from there, pretty much all you do is export it. Export your video file. You also want to make sure that you would, in the end, mute the camera video file audio so that all you're left with is your MP3 recording of your guitar. So you don't want any of this bleeding in. And that's pretty much it. From there, you export it. There are a lot of little specific things about each program that involve exporting, but basically, you just want to get that file out. One thing that you want to be aware of is you want to know what kind of video file you're working with, and you want to export your video file kind of in a way that mirrors it. So if you have a video file that's 1440 by 1080 or 1080p, you want to export your video in that same resolution. If it's 29 frames per second, you also want to export it in 29 frames per second. There's a lot more stuff about all of that, but basically just try to match it. And from there, that's pretty much it. That's about as simple as it gets. You can add a whole bunch of things. You know, I have a little intro that I use. I've got a whole bunch of them here. I just kind of created them using Sony Vegas one day. You know, intros, they're fine, whatever. It's just kind of a thing that you can do. You don't have to. You can do a lot of editing. You can use multiple cameras. But then it really just comes down to learning how to use your video editing program. But really, that's pretty much the basics. You capture your video, you capture your audio, and then use a computer video editing program to put them together. And then you upload to YouTube, and then you have an awesome, awesome time. So please let me know if you guys have any questions about this process. It's really, I mean, there is some upfront learning, you know, little things like if you're using Axe-Fx, how does that work? You know, how do you get those drivers to be set up so you can use it as a sound card? Or if you're using, Windows Movie Maker, how do you, control all that? How do you split the video clips? How do you cut them? How do you splice them? How do you change the audio? How do you minimize one, maximize the other? All these little things that are kind of specific to all those little programs you can find elsewhere. Do Google searches, do YouTube searches on those specific things. But from a general overarching perspective, that's kind of the process that I go through. And it really gets to the point for me where I've really sped things up just because I've done it so much. And I would definitely say that's probably going to be true for you as well. So go ahead and give it a shot. I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions about making YouTube videos or how to post them, anything, just go ahead and leave a comment and I would be happy to answer it below. And I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you soon.